All right, brothers and sisters, I appreciate those that are here. And I've been speaking a little bit in the back chat before I hit the live button. So I hope everyone can hear me out there. I apologize if you can't. Kind of look not mobile but semi-mobile right now. So um, I really wanted to break some things down and discuss some things on why we are where we are and why we must get back to truths, fundamental truths. So, and I'll leave this open as well. If anyone wants to, if you want to jump in, by all means, you can jump in as well. This is not, I don't want this to be a monologue. I'm not really not going to make this long. I'll come back on and actually start breaking down some live streams, doing some live streams and doing some builds on who certain people are and why they do the things that they do. Because it gets back to self-preservation is the first law of nature, and that deals with any creature or creation, I should say, on this planet. Because even plants and animals, um, even viruses do that. It's about self-preservation. So some people do things, and we think that they are um, not being who they are, but they actually being who they are. If a virus, if a virus is attacking your body, right, and you end up becoming sick, uh, well, you can't tell the virus, you're not being a virus. The virus is being a virus. So the same thing applies on the human level. That if you see someone and they continue to show you time after time who they are, they continue to show you who they are. Then you have to take a step back and say, you know what? This person is being exactly who they are. I keep trying to deny that they are a virus, but they keep showing the characteristics and attributes of a virus. So you do one or two things. You either allow that virus to stay in your system and eat you alive, or you decide, hey, I'm going to treat my body and allow my bodies to create antibodies to snuff this virus out. And that's the same thing that goes on in communities. You're either going to allow that virus to infect and affect everything and everyone in that community, or you're going to snuff it out. So here's where we are. And I understand some people may not take what I am saying to heart, but I will tell you this. I will give you the information, I will give you the ammo. It is totally up to you what you decide to do with it. But there should be no more silence of the lambs, because there should be no way that the things that have been transpiring should be able to continue to take place. And if we keep allowing them to take place, then shame on us for allowing that to happen. But we're not going to do this anymore. And we're going to handle it the way the elders would expect us to handle it, because we are representing them, and we're also representing ourselves, and we are representing our posterity. So personally, I've tried to clear the air with some of those that I felt like that were on the fence or say that they staying out of it. And like I said, that's why I had my personal issues with some people because I'm saying you're seeing what's going on. You're seeing people being deceived. You're seeing people being led the wrong way, and you say absolutely nothing, or you'll say something privately in the chats, and you never say anything publicly. Those type of people will have no more space and no more room in my life, none whatsoever. So those that continue to roll like that, I will not have any interactions with you. I can't do it because there are things that are more pressing than that. You know, who's got the most views and all that? Because I never was here for the views. No one could come on here and say that I owe them anything. I never charged for anything. Never. So pull up that first person that could come out and say that I owe them something or I did something. I took their money for a service and never provide them this service because they can't do it. They can't do it. So anyone that's still coming with that nonsense and the low vibrations, I'm done. So we will start building and we'll start talking about because I know there's some that want to romanticize that all of us were getting along over here prior to 1492. And that was not the case. Those are a lot of the things that I'll be bringing out and show you the differences and how particular people where it started coming in. And people don't want to talk about this, but it is what it is because in order to fix what was wrong, we had to discuss what was wrong and how particular tribes battled each other. And because this is prior to the Europeans, particular tribes and particular people battled each other, and how that left room for foreigners to come in. And when they came in, it wasn't necessarily by force as much as it was on paper. So and so when we're looking at the paper trail, then we're able to understand what happened. But we were battling each other before that, and we'll discuss what happened because when you have a group of people that are pushed out of one land, then they have to go somewhere. Because a lot of these stories that you hear about this particular group of people, they were wiped out. That particular group of people were wiped out. But when you study another culture or another people, you'll see this influx of people, and it's the same time frame and using the same timeline as those that so-called just disappeared out of one land. So the people just did were just wiped off the face of the earth, and as we've been taught before, and the proof is going to be in the pudding. And there are discussions being had with people that look like us, and then there are other people that don't look like us. But you'll be surprised, but we are the same people. As you've heard me say years, I said some things are dealing with culture, and some folk get wrapped up in skin tone, and they don't look at the culture. Because I'll give you an example. Dealing with my genealogy alone, my people alone. I have people in my family that they reclassified as Negro. I have people in my family that they classified as mulatto. I have people that they classified as white. I have people that they have classified as Indian, which was that was the jump we were already called when we were classified by Europeans was Indian, American Indian. But this is from the same bloodline within the same household. This is not something that was like, okay, you got a distant cousin. I'm giving you an example that I have a great grandfather on one census record classified as white. White. Then before that, he was classified as mulatto. And before that, he was classified as Indian, and then come back on the census after he was classified as white. He's now classified as Negro. And this is the same person. So it wasn't like he was a chameleon going through all these different changes. So these are the same things that we're going to discuss. And I brought up before, and some people take when I'm because things have been digitized, and I said that's the one thing that it's easy access. But then when things are digitized, the wording can be changed to be politically correct, which is why I always suggest if you can, and it's easier now because even these colleges are making their libraries, these museums are making their libraries accessible online. So a lot of times you have to physically go places. Yeah, you do. But sometimes you can actually get the scanned in book so you can see the verbiage. So I said the other day, I said the term Native American, and things went left when I said Native American. When I said those that call themselves Native American, that is a different classification. There is no Native American when it comes to law. I'll say that again. There is no Native American when it comes to law. When you open up those law books and you look at all the writings, you will see American Indian. You will see Indian, American Indian. You will not see Native American. That's something here recently, and that's what those that don't understand. That by law, a Native American is anyone that was born on this soil, as what we call the United States. So anyone and everyone that is born on this soil is considered a Native American. It's like all squares are rectangles, but all rectangles aren't squares. So I am going to go back and I'm going to deal with the legal term. I've said this before, and people got upset, and they said, "Oh, we want to have a discussion. We want to have a debate. You want all this smoke?" And they never showed up. I broke it down before, but I'm going to take my time very slowly and start discussing. I kind of discussed it on another brother's channel the other day a little bit when we were talking about how what is America, how to get that name, and then the Indian part. These are things that a particular tribe or tribes or group of people call themselves and their neighbors call them. We have to go back and understand that it was Portuguese and Spaniards that came over here. A lot of words that are in Portuguese and that are in Spanish are loan words from what we called ourselves and the things that we use for ourselves. That's why I gave the example of potato. It's batata. It's that's where there was no such thing as what they call a potato in Europe. There was nothing that was called that in Europe. So we have to get back to breaking down what is the etymology, what do you call ourselves? Because like I said, I'm James, but when I tell you there are a gazillion million Jameses in my family, and they did that for a reason. So you remember who you are, going back to who you are. Start finding out who you are. Start finding out these names. Start finding out why your grandmother would frown when you say, "Oh, this I'm gonna name my baby this, and I'm gonna name my baby that, and I'm gonna and I'm gonna name my baby Ferrari because that's that because I can say I got one." Nope. That's why your granny kept saying something. That's why in my family, when I tell you I got old names in my family but they go back to tell you where they're from. I give you an example. My great grandmother's name was Pearl. My mother's name, my grandbaby's name, because it tells you the Pearl tells you where she was from, where she was born. It's the Pearl River in Mississippi. There's a little river, a little creek that runs. So that's why Then they called it that. So it's things that we have to understand. And see, it was like, that's an old folk name. It is an old folk name, but it traces you back to who you are because it ties you back to the land, which is why I keep saying when you do your genealogy, when you start finding out who you are, people want to jump from, I know I'm an Indian, I need to be in a tribe. I would always suggest start with the family that you're most familiar with. It may not be a major tribe, or it could be, a smaller tribe, but within a larger nation. Go back and find the most people that you know. If you can at least go back to your grandmother, now we can start having this conversation. Go back to your grandfather, whether it be maternal or paternal. Now you can start discussing who you are. See, that's what I'm saying, Joe. When the people like look at those names and they say that's an old folk name, I'm not naming my baby that. But there's a reason why these names are here. And when you go back and you keep finding out, you're like, oh, the white folk name, I'm changing my name to this, changing my name to Umbaku. And all the rest, and they're saying, don't do that. Don't do that. That's how your children gonna find out who you are. Because mind you, these names were before they started taking these US census. And then you go before that, you'll find out a lot of records are in your Catholic churches. They have these records. Your Catholic churches have your records because when these Portuguese and these Spaniards came over here, they were keeping detailed records of who was who. And they were living amongst the people in the tribe. But we don't want to hear that. Go to these Catholic churches, they have these records. Go to these Mormons, they have the records. Like they say, they go up and they talk about, Joseph Smith and all this is lunacy and all the rest of that. But then ask yourself, why is Ancestry.com? Why is that run by the Mormon church? They have your records. And no one's paying attention. You'll find out 9 times out of 10, your Algonquian speaking people, the Algonquian languages, they'll find their records amongst the Mormon church. Those that are Muskogee languages, Muskogee people, the Mississippi people, Mississippi Choctaw, the what they call the Mississippi Maya, and we'll get into that, and you'll understand that dealing with the Mashika, the Misha people, Muskogee, Mashika. Who are these Itza people? Who are these Choctaw people? Trate Guate. Who are the Choctaw people? Who are these people? That when you go down and you talk to these, I've been posting a little bit, when you talk to these elders that are actually in that land, I advise anyone this spring and this summer, if you're going to Cancun, don't waste your time on the resort. Go to these places, start talking to these elders. Don't tell your tour guide after hours, hey, if I got to pay you an extra, 100 pesos or whatever, I need you to take me to the elders of these villages that live up in the highlands. Don't take me to the resort packages and have some little 7-year-old girl braid my hair and then come back and your hair is braided. Don't do that. You're wasting your money. You're wasting your, especially if you want to just go and have a good time, that's fine. But if you're trying to find out who you are, start going to these places. Start going to these Catholic churches. Not when they having mass. Go afterwards and say, hey, I need to know when you to your people, your county where you're from, and start from there and work your way back as far as you can. Because a lot of us have been moved various places. But they have these records. Like I said, if you are Muskogee language people, which are your Choctaw, Chickasaw, uh, uh, half of the Yamasee a little bit, but that gets back to start getting to Muskogee land. But you'll find out they have these records in the Catholic churches. And you'll find out. And like I said, I'm one of those that I will never say that Africans didn't come over here. I would never say that they didn't come in slave ships, but I know they wasn't chained 200, 300 strong. Chained, it wasn't that way. And the reason being, greetings, Brother Carrie Bay, good to be back, is what a lot of people don't understand is that when you start discovering these Africans that were coming over here weren't in chains. They were passengers who paid off their debt. When they paid off their debt, they got a parcel of land. And I know some people like, oh no, no, they did, oh, they did. Yeah, there were Africans, because I'm gonna break it down to you. When you go back and you read of what happened in 1619, because you got folk that are trying to get reparations based on 1619, and it says 20 and odd Negroes. We're gonna realize those 20 and odd Negroes were the captains of the ships. They were Portuguese. They were not slaves on the ship. They were Portuguese. So when the British took the ship, pirates, because they were hired mercenaries. So when they took that ship and took them to Virginia, it still gets back to people that look like us. And so we looking at someone that look like us. When I say we, I'm talking about those that are on the shore. I'm not talking about my people. I'm talking about we that are on the shore, on the East Coast. When they see these people that look like us, although they are speaking gibberish, that's my great grandmother told me that her grandmother told her. They were speaking gibberish, but they looked like us, so we would bring them in. And they started trading, and they started teaching them our language. They taught us some words from over there, what it means, what, started communicating, and started having that discussion. And so now you got Portuguese intermarrying and having children with American Indians. Then you got the Dutch coming along, and they are being taught, like, oh, taught certain things, this and that, and they start mingling and intermarrying. Now, mind you, the majority of the people that were coming over here on ships were men. There were very few women. So when they were procreating, who were they procreating with? So these that were coming over here, because you got to remember that Portuguese, see, they don't understand Portugal, Spain, when they left, right, for Isabella, when they left, these are also what you call West Africans. Because nobody is explaining when they say they expelled the Moors out of what we now is Spain. Well, where did they go? They don't break down where they went. They went into Northwest and West Africa. Those are Portuguese. And we're gonna start doing lessons getting into that. That's it, though. 40 people. They keep forgetting. That's why we had done some back about, Swarthy Pete. And they still do it in Deutschland today. They still dress up in blackface, and people are so offended. But when they do it over there, it's not like they were doing it over here with Al Jolson and all the rest of them, dressed up in blackface and singing "Mammy." They weren't doing that. It was paying homage to Swarthy Pete. And because we don't get understand those customs, yeah, it's literally right there. Spain and Portuguese, they're the same people. The only thing that's different with the Portuguese and the Spaniards is the Portuguese have uh, more of what you call the Nordic languages, more of your Germanic languages. But they are the same people because they were on the port, they were on the coast. So you have people coming from North Africa. You have people coming from uh, the Nordic lands. So it's a mixture of all these languages. That's why some of the Portuguese words sound it's a hard like a hard Germanic sound, and then some words it's similar to Spanish, Spain, Espanol, Spain. So these are the same people, but they were dark. They were bringing them over here. And so when they were coming over here and they get their parcels of land, that's what people are confusing. When they think about slavery, they go, oh man, chattel slave. No, they were coming over here because these were Moors that were kicked out of Spain. And then Spain said, hey, we'll put you on ships and we'll let you start over on a new land. So they come over here. And I know people gonna say, oh no, he don't know what he's talking about. But then I ask somebody right now to look up the word Melungeon. Just look up the word Melungeon. And when you see them with the word Melungeon, they're going to tell you they are a triracial people. They will tell you, I am European, I am Indian, or they say politically correct term, Native American, and I am a descendant of a free African. I'm going to say that again. They said they are European, Native American, or American Indian, and free African. Wait a minute. Thought all these Africans come over here as slaves. I thought everyone came over here as slaves. All these Africans, you can say, came over here as slaves. And what they're not realizing is slave is an employee. And when they don't get it, they don't get it. You have to understand the terminology. That's why I said on the brothers live before the other day when I said if you look at Esteban, they call him Esteban the Moor because he came over and went along the Gulf Coast and ended up in Texas and went down in Mexico, came back, was going back and forth because he looked like us. And then other passages in the same book, it would say Esteban the slave. But then he's Esteban the Moor. Then he says he's Esteban the slave. He was an employee sent over here to do the work of the Spaniards. And when our people realize you look like us, but every time you leave, destruction follows. They killed him. So we have to understand that there are people over here that are descendants of these other people that are black, that are classified as black Negroes. And we think because they look like us, that they are us. And they are not us because you can tell by the way they move. Now, let me clear something up. I'm not labeling that on everyone because that's not the case. But you will find out the majority of these people that came and they came from Virginia and settled up north and ended up in New York and what they call New Deutschland that became New England, and then they started going on the other side that you start getting into Pennsylvania across the Appalachian Mountains, and those are the ones that Thomas Jefferson was talking about. that they were the go-betweens, and then you'll find out that it's these same triracial group of people that came down and started to settle into Tennessee, Kentucky, and eventually they came through Arkansas and started coming in to Texas, and what led to the Texas Revolution, the Mexican American War, and all the rest of that stuff. You will find out a whole lot of records that they came from Tennessee, Kentucky, Tennessee, Kentucky, Tennessee, Kentucky, Tennessee, Kentucky. Why is that? But you're looking at them, you're saying, "Oh, you're being taught these are white folk, these are Europeans." You'll come to find out the majority of them were Melungeons. Bowie and Davy Crockett, these were Melungeons. And we're going to talk about how simultaneously the caste war was happening in Mexico. Because Mexico has just gotten its independence from Spain, but the British were coming and trying to take over, and the Spaniards wanted to clap back as well as the French. And I've talked about that before. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Joe, all the things your man won't do. When you start to see how these players play, how they move. When you watch how they move, you keep listening to them over and over and over. And then when you bring them nuggets of truth, then they start to try to assassinate your character. Oh no, we can't let them get out of over. No, nobody do that. Over. We all the same. No, we're not all the same. And even with those that came from the same branch, we fought. So to allow that to happen, then once we start knowing and we start waking up to the truth, then we can't allow that to take place. We can no longer allow that to take place because now we're giving energy to that and we're way off track because now you got babies out here that are still trying to figure out who they are. Because once you start figuring out and your elders start telling you that that's exactly it, all skin folk ain't kin folk. When you start to find out who you actually are, then the game changes. And so what I'm going to do is, if anyone wants to come up, I'm gonna put it out there. By all means, if you want to come up and come in, then just come on up and come on in, because you know it's time out for playing those games. It really is. And I personally don't want to be a part of that anymore because it's not healthy. It's not worth it. And we need to get back to where we were. And the only way to get back to where we were is being realistic about who we want to be. So I am going to put it out there. Give me a moment. Like I said, I'm not going to be long at all. I just want to send that. Hold on. So if anybody wants to get on, by all means, because I'm waiting for. You can come on and you can join. Um, but I wanted, like I said, just touching on. I know I went to a lot of topics, but there's a lot of things that we're gonna take our time on, and not gonna do 7, 8 hour streams. Can't do that because then things will get lost. I'll put them in nuggets, maybe 45 minutes, an hour discussion, and we'll go into things like that. But that's for anybody, you know. Uh, anybody that wants to come on, by all means, and because there's some things that need to be discussed that we have so much tunnel vision sometimes that we don't look at a thing from a broader perspective. So, for example, when I talked about the Melungeons that were coming down, they were also given um, funding and then promised parcels of land that people were already on the land. But they were given parcels of land. They had a group of people to come and help them build log cabins uh, in Texas. The Mexican Army, I said the Mexican Republic, uh, were inviting these people down because they thought that these Melungeons were going to help them fight the the Europeans, the Spanish, and the British from taking over. And the term that they gave them, that the Mexican people gave them, was a Mayan term of Yucatecos, or should I say an Aztecan word? Because you see those tecos as Aztecan. Yucatecos. So Yucatecos is meaning my friend, but it became to be known as my white friend, which is where you get the word Tejas from, which is where you get the word Texas from, meaning my friend. So that was the deal. The Mexican army was inviting these Melungeons to come down, thinking they were going to help fight the British and the Spaniards in Mexico, but they got bamboozled. So now that these Melungeons knew that the Mexican army was weak, so now we're going to attack. Because again, the caste war is going on because you have the Maya that are fighting the Mexicans, the mestizos. They're fighting them, and you'll find out this is going on simultaneously while this so-called Mexican American war is going on. So they're fighting on two fronts. And the caste war is still going on today. I came across a gentleman named Ricardo, and he's talking about those that Afro Mexicans, and don't really not liking that term because it implies that people don't understand that Afro just means that your hair had nothing to do with Africa, but they recognizing on these telenovelas and all the rest of that they only had these European looking whites. Y'all have heard me say this before. Oh, brother Kerry, anytime you got an invite. Like I said, I'll come back on later, but I was just kind of giving a heads up to the direction we're going in. So yeah, I understand you working and listening, man, and I appreciate you, brother. I got nothing but love for you. So we're gonna get into that and understanding that there was an intra um, Caribbean slave trade or trading of people, and this is what we have to realize, that there was a lot of that going on. As you keep doing more research, you'll find out that the Pequot War, they sent them down into Jamaica and Haiti and Cuba. You'll find out those that were on that when the British were fighting for what was known as British Honduras, now Belize. You'll find out that they were shipping those guerreros that they call the fighters, normally having the bearded fighters, the Black Devils. They were shipping them to the islands, to the Caribbean, and then they gave the label of Africa. And this is what these folks don't realize. You've got to go back and look at King Charles V. When he made an edict and said African, he wasn't talking about the continent of Africa. He was talking about the melanated people that they found in the Western Hemisphere, what we know as the Western Hemisphere of the Americas. And he specifically says that those were the negras that they were talking about, the negus de terra. These were the same folk that got shipped around from different places, which is why I never could figure out why my better half people, they're Puerto Rican. I'm like, y'all going from a tropical environment and y'all living in New York and Philly and Jersey. Why? I was like, man, I wouldn't go from nice tropical weather to going to the extreme of being cold. And as we continue talking again, going out talking to her elders, going back and finding out what it was, is now these were your Pequots that got shipped out and they're just trying to go back home. Yes, sir. I did. I did find out about those that they, yep, that they killed down there in Mexico. That wasn't that long ago, and then they all of a sudden they mysteriously dying of carbon monoxide poisoning at Airbnbs. What's going on here? So it's like when the people are going down there trying to find out the truth, all of a sudden people start mysteriously dying, and you don't hear too much about it on the news. That's why I say start checking up on folks, checking in on people. Hey, I ain't heard from you in a while. Just send a text. I don't want anything. I just want to say, hey, are you okay? Everything going good? How are you and your family? Because people are starting to ask these questions. But like I said, there's a gentleman named Ricardo that he will tell you his nationality is he's Mexican, which gets back again to Mexicos, and we're gonna talk about that too. That understanding that there was different various cultures that live within an area or a community just like you do today. You didn't have the same cultures and just and that was it. It was cultures, various cultures that made up particular towns or communities or villages. Now they live within their own communities within that town or that community, but you'll find that they would all come together and it was about an exchange. And they still do it to this day. We do it, especially in the larger cities. You those within your family or whatever. If you stand close by, and then you have all these areas to where other people, other cultures are living there, and you exchange at the markets. So there was a society. That's not something that someone thrusted upon us. It's something that we've always done when it came to culture, and you'll see that. And even when it comes to international trade, because we're living in a global economy now, but there used to be a global economy because Ekchua, who was the known as the merchant, the deity of merchant, was actually a group of people that would exchange all over the world. Chocolate, chocolate, and copper, and corn, and pine cone. See, these are something that your modern historians that gets everything out of a book and never goes anywhere, they can't put the pieces together to show you. Like you can't explain. Is that Gabrielle Union? They can't explain to you how Chisel and Stone they have their winged deities, Mesopotamia, holding corn, holding pine cone. How in the world Do they know about corn, maize that is man-made, manipulated over 10,000 years ago? How did that get over there? Which is why did you pick and said no matter where you go, there you are. I keep seeing these same people, keep seeing these same symbolism all over the world. Why would the Mandigos, talk about they come from the land of the red corn? How are you gonna talk about corn if you don't know what it is? That's why I say again, when you're looking at these people in West Africa and they telling you certain things, these Portuguese had already been coming over here. They already been coming over here because Turks can't end up how you smoking cigarettes, how you smoking tobacco. Ah man, I wish you could jump on. Yeah, like I said, I'm gonna come on again, later. But I just want to, like I say, just breaking some things down. And in the words of BDP, KRS-One, break them down to the very last compound. It'll start making sense. Why are some of these places named what they name? Who are some of these people? So then when you start seeing how people move and they keep moving that way and they keep moving that way, then you say, doggone it, they telling me that they're this, but they're showing me that they're that. And when you keep seeing them and they keep telling you, oh, I'm this, but they keep showing you that they're that, now you got to realize, oh man, I have got to stay away from them. I have got to be a little bit more careful. I've got to watch with information. There are some things that I'll share with y'all within the core group, and we'll get in and I'll show y'all some things, even dealing just with my tribe and my people, that I won't make live. We'll do a video about it, but I'll do this way. I won't make that video public. I won't make that live stream public because I've seen how some do things. That's it, Brother Kerry, but you got to be more careful. I see how they do things and they'll take things that you say and then show up to your family reunion like Tupac and them did on Poetic Justice, talking about their cousins because they've seen something on a live and they said that terminology of done those things like, yeah, you got to be careful. Oh, I'm cutting those baby son, baby boy. And they're using that terminology and they're using your customs to get in, but they're not of you. So we already went through that before. We've already gone through that. That's how we went. That's how we are now got, hey. So, and we were, hey. How do we go from that to, and hitting the drum off beat? Come on, son. You had some people infiltrate your camp. You've had viruses trying to take over the body. You've had those viruses taking over the body and no more. So all we're going to keep doing is just hitting with truth, hitting with truth, hitting with truth. And you keep hitting them with that truth, and then after a while, they can't handle it. Because after a while, other people are going to start saying, man, I hear what they saying over there, but this group over here keep coming with truth, and then I can follow it back. I can follow it back. Oh, snap. And you'll start to see how certain things start making sense. And it's like, oh man, I didn't know this and I didn't know that. Like my better half and I, we went to go see Black Panther Forever, Wakanda Forever. And things that I was breaking down to her that we had talked about, man, years ago. And she was everybody was like, kind of in the theater, like, well, what are they doing? And when we got out, she was saying, that's stuff that we discussed a long time ago. Those are things that you showed me dealing with your people a long time ago. I was like, yeah, a long time ago. That's why I gave the example before. Oh man, I appreciate you. I appreciate the support, you know, and There's always gonna be love there. Always. I just like I said, I just want to make sure that there are alternatives. And I always say this. So people like that camp, and I'm like, it's like Baskin Robbins, whatever your flavor. There's certain flavors that I don't like. You won't find me at Baskin Robbins trying to get the liver flavored ice cream. I don't want that. Now somebody may want that liver flavored ice cream, but I personally don't want it. So I'm not gonna delve into that. I'm not gonna spend my time nor my energy on trying to ask this person behind the counter to get me 2 scoops of liver ice cream. No, I'm not gonna waste my money like that. And so when I mean by money, I mean by energy. Because we understand that's a currency. There's an exchange. So that's your energy is your money. Because work over time equals wages. In the corporate world, that's where they get it from. You are a battery. So, and like I said, man, all the things your man won't do, like I said, just man, we're going to connect. Like I said, we'll connect as even as a group to go over just things and questions that some people don't feel comfortable. Oh man, this brother no sellout. Oh man. It's when you realize that hey, some of the things like I said that people may want to discuss or have questions, they don't want it to be on a live stream, and I respect that. And then, like I said, especially when you start getting into finding your family, and like I said, that's the main part of it. When you find in your family, that's what connects you to your tribe. I would advise, and I know it's a lot of work, but I advise someone go back as far as you can either way, but then start going to if my paternal side is easier to connect and I can see the trail of these people here, then do that. If my maternal side is easier to connect, to do that because a lot of us, like I say, we intermarried in the different tribes. You can only be a member of one tribe. No one can be like Ted Cruz and you Canadian, Cuban, and a U.S. citizen. I ain't figured that out yet, Senator Cruz. Oh man. Same here, brother. Don't sell out. Like I say, man, y'all always got it. Y'all have a permanent invite. You don't have to tell me that you're coming. All you gotta do is ring the doorbell, man. Somebody's always home. All you gotta do is ring the doorbell. So don't come across state lines into Texas and don't come by here, man. So you always got an open invitation. So I'm oh man, and just so y'all know, like I said, it's when it comes time to certain things, and I will say this, and if y'all notice, I've always stuck to that way. I will never attack anyone's faith, anyone's religion. It's just like in every family, you got people from all walks of life. My personal goal, my intent is to make sure that people know who they are. Because once you know who you are, you can make sound decisions. Things will begin to make sense when you know who you are. You walk a little taller when you know who you are. And that's the biggest thing. And I go back to something that's been talked about before, even with dealing with Brother Kyrie Irving, and everybody said, oh man, and there's no way that there's a people that could give a list of demands. And whether you believe in that book or not, because like I said before on when I did a little snippet that the collection of books that they call the Bible is nothing but a remix of a remake of a remake of a remake of a remake. Because as you start to delve in and find out more who you are, you'll start to find out that some of these things that are in that collection of books because the reason why I use the Bible because the majority of people all over the world know that book, you'll start to find out, wait a minute, there are people more ancient than the people that they're talking about in this collection of books that they call the Bible that are talking about the same thing. Why are we not going back and talking to the timekeepers, the keepers of time, those that could tell you, hey, these people were here before the Egyptians. Everybody wants to say, oh, the Egyptians were started here. But the Egyptians can't give you the time. So one of the things that we're gonna talk about, we're gonna start talking about who were these timekeepers? Who were these timekeepers? How could these times be so accurate? And I'll give you an example of the collection of the books that they call the Bible. You look at the book of Ezekiel. The book of Ezekiel talks about a wheel in a wheel. Now go back and look at what they call the Mayan calendar. The Mayan calendar is a wheel within a wheel. Within a wheel. There are three different calendars all within that timekeeping piece. Now open up the old fashioned clocks because I got a lot of, I don't wear them anymore, but I have a lot of watches. And you open the back of that up or a clock and you'll see those sprockets moving. You see those wheels within a wheel moving. So who's keeping the time? Who knew about the time? Who understands that we're living in the fifth age since they've been keeping time? Who talks about the fact in that collection of books that you call people call collectively called the Bible, that it talks about you should look in the heavens for times and seasons, but we don't do that anymore. There's a reason why that our people, my grandmother, why she had an almanac, how she could even tell, like, oh, it's getting ready to rain, baby, because my knee bone. Why did we get away from that? How was she able to tell? But no internet back then. That wasn't no Google going on. How did she know when to plant certain crops in her garden at certain times? Because she knew what time it was. She knew the seasons. See, that's what I'm talking about, Gabriel. You should have hopped on up in here. You ain't brother no sellout. I know Brother Kerry Bays at work, and I know Brother Serpent couldn't get up in here, but it's things that we don't pay attention to. But all of this is tying in to the saying, do you know what time it is? So when we go back and understand the times and the seasons, then we should know what's going on. But we're not looking at that. We're looking at, man, I get 10,000, 100,000 views when I do a 2-minute live. And look at your numbers. And it's not about that, because the deal is, if one person could take that information and take it back to their people, and they say, oh, it makes sense. Then you go in the back room with grandma, with granny, and she said, yes. Because a lot of times, these elders and your grandparents and your great grandparents won't talk to you because you're not ready, because you won't listen to them. I don't want to go back there with me, Mom. She's just going to say the same thing over and over. She got to tell you, come here and give Big Mama a kiss. She got to make you come over there and give her a hug. She doesn't say anything because you're not ready. Because you weren't ready. So yes, sir, Joe. All things. I know y'all at work, like I said, in the middle of the day. I just had a little time, and I wanted to just kind of get some things out there and cover some things. And I don't ever want it to be one way, because everyone, I learned something from all my years of teaching school. I learned more from my students than they would ever learn from me. And I would say that to them, and they'd be like, "Oh no, that can't be true. There's no way, no way." And as they got older, because now a lot of my former students are, they married and got kids. And when they come back and we had those conversations, and I show them, like, I remember this, and they are amazed over the little stuff that they say, "Oh, you remember that?" I said, "Yeah." I said, that hit home with me. So it's the same thing. I don't know everything. I will never say that I know everything. And my hope is that one day that I could actually get my dad to come on. I doubt it, but actually get to sit down and start having these discussions and having my great cousins and like I told them, I said when we have our family reunions, our family gatherings, because every time we have one, with that next year we lose about three elders, and just in my family, my branch alone, just in the Wash, what we call the Washita, just my branch alone, the Rabbit clan. And so I want to make sure that this information is passed down to my children, and anything that I can share to help out you and your families. That's what it's all about. So anyone that's looking for clout, anyone that's looking for numbers, anyone that's looking for AdSense, you won't see me do anything trying to get. It won't be an ad in the middle of my video. I can't do that. I just can't, because it's not. It's at this point in my life, as it's always been. It's never been about the money for me, because one day it'll come around to where, you know what, you're gonna run in to one of James Flame's kids somewhere, and they're gonna need something. They're gonna be like, wait a minute, I know your dad. You come on over here. You got a flat tire. Your car broke down. Whatever the case may be, because you're gonna find out more often than not that a lot of us are interconnected, and you're gonna find out more often than not. A lot of us, like I said, especially with the tribes intermingling and families and all the rest of that stuff, you're gonna find out somewhere down the line we're related. So it can't just be about me and mine. Because honestly, an American Indian isn't built like that. Now those that like that liver flavored ice cream, that's how they roll. It's not in my heart, it's not in my spirit to move that way. So if anyone will jump on now, you can get in. I know a lot of people moving around at work and everything. And but if anyone want to jump on, because if not, I'm just gonna close this out in a couple of minutes. I want to say I miss y'all. I love y'all. I appreciate it. And like I say, just getting time to regroup. Sometimes you gotta, you get caught up in things and you gotta step back. And so, my better half said, take a step back. When my dad said you gotta take a step back. When my great uncles are saying you gotta take a step back and let's go back and regroup and refresh and handle things a different way. That's why I said, Joe, all the things your man won't do. So people like that liver ice cream. They do. They gobble it up. They eat it like a sweet potato pie and won't flinch. None of that. Won't even get anything to wash it down. They love that type of stuff. So I've been on here an hour. Like I said, I'm not gonna ever keep the stream unless somebody want to, jump on here any more than an hour, because I understand that we live in a time where everybody wants things. We could barely sit still for an hour. Sitcoms, why they cut it down to 30 minutes, and now it's about 22 minutes an episode. But I just wanted to know, I appreciate y'all. Like I say, I've been gone for a minute, so I've been checking on me. Like I say, I put it this way: I hold no ill will toward anyone that is actually moving to be an ally. But those that I know that are viruses, you'll never get love from me. You won't even get the time of day from me. You won't even get a glass of water from me, because you're a virus and you need to be snuffed out. Oh man, other than Gabrielle Union, you won't get it from me. So, like I said, we'll come back on, and what I'll do is I will actually uh start prefacing, like, the titles of things. So we'll stay on that subject matter, because I know people may have questions, and I always leave room for questions and answers. I'll probably have more questions of y'all than y'all will for me. So, like I said again, I love all of y'all. I appreciate y'all. Be kind to each other. Keep continue to love each other, care about each other, and we're gonna be back on, and we're gonna do it again. And I'll tell brothers, no sell out. I said this before. You heard me say this years ago, and I'll say it again. When people try to figure out who built these mounds, and I'm gonna show the proof, it's those Natchez, those Natchez coming from Itza. You're gonna find out who built these fortified walls. I'm gonna keep bringing more proof when they say they don't know. So yeah, they know. They gonna find out about these Mississippi Maya. And when they find out these Mississippi Maya, they gonna find out who they are and where they come from, and then they gonna be like, "Oh my God, I didn't know that," or "I knew that," or they gonna come back and they gonna wait about 6 months, and then they gonna remix it and try to say they building on something. Y'all gonna find out. You heard it here. I said it before, and I'll say it again. You heard it here first. Those snap cheese, those were your mound builders. You're gonna find out why they were building those mounds. You're gonna find out what was going on and why these mounds and stuff in these high places were built before the flood. And y'all gonna realize there were giants in the land. People don't want to talk about that. Oh, there were giants in the land. Again, y'all be good to yourselves, be good to each other. I'll be back on. Until next time, I'm out.